Okay, thank you all for joining and welcome to our exhibition Home of a Collector that we are doing here at Tradition in collaboration with Brun Rasmussen. I'm Els van Hurbeek, I'm the head of design for Tradition, and today we are here to talk about sustainability in the design industry. And we have our guest speaker, So would you mind introducing yourself?
Thanks, Els. My name is Willing, and I'm a furniture designer based here in Copenhagen, and been working with design for the last, I think, 17 years. I think that was
it. And during 3 days here, we are launching a chair together, the Relight chair. Could you just tell us a little bit about the chair, the story, the idea behind it?
I got the brief around 3 years ago from Tradition, and one thing that was amazing from the beginning was actually that it was meant as a sustainable chair, meaning it was born as a sustainable chair. And that was, of course, it's been a really great process. I think we spent the last 3 years more or less developing it all the time, finding out the right materials, the right way to construct it, the right way to manufacture it. And I think this journey has been really amazing. We also found out, actually, when you start to dig into this universe of sustainability, that I, as a designer, actually know nothing about sustainability. You need to completely trust in actually a whole team that surrounds you, because it's a really complex task actually to solve all these different things, because there's so many aspects to this field.
There's a lot of miscommunication, I think, around the whole sustainability and, when are you sustainable? There's a lot of greenwashing, I think is the correct term.
Definitely. And the problem is also that it's you hear one thing from one person and then you go to the next expert and you hear something else. So you really need to navigate in this also because, of course, sustainability is not new. It's been here for many, many years, but it's still like the focus that is on it right now is enormous. And of course, that also means that a lot of things are actually popping up that's maybe not as sustainable, turns out not to be sustainable. But I think regarding the Relight chair, we searched a lot for different materials. From the beginning, the brief also told me that it should be a recycled plastic shell. So, and actually within these 3 years, the market for recycled plastic had also developed a lot, actually. So, for example, all the black shells is actually from old car waste. It comes from the car industry. So all the interiors can actually be taken out, cut in pieces, and turned into a granulate once again, and be remolded. And that, of course, is amazing. So it's 100% recycled from the car industry. All the different colors actually comes from post-industrial waste, meaning we are actually right now working with a couple of different material suppliers to actually find out the best sustainable and recyclable plastic. And once again, that's also going to change. So because what we know is right or seems sustainable right now is probably in 2 or 3 years completely outdated. So when starting to do a sustainable product, we also need to accept the fact that we're probably going to change something in the process. Meaning that in 5 years, maybe this shell is made from something completely different than it is today. Because if you want to be sustainable, we need to use the best possible materials on the market, the best possible production techniques, and these changes just need to be adapted. That's a part of the process.
Yeah, and are there any, when you talk about materials, are there any new materials that you have very high expectations for?
I think actually the material market at the moment is more or less exploding. More or less every day we get newsletters with materials, and most of them actually is based on recyclable and sustainability. So it's an extremely interesting time actually right now, because there's so much focus on this. And it also shows actually if the whole industry want to go in this way, want to make sure that we go as sustainable as possible, we can actually really make difference. As an example, for example, we have worked with an alternative to leather. It's fish skin that can be treated so it can be used for upholstery. If it's done right, it's really, really beautiful, and of course it can also be too much. But you can still see the skeletons in the surface. Actually, some of it is really, really nice. Sorry.
Sorry to interrupt you. But are there any materials that you would stay away from?
The problem is, once again, you hear different things from different people. Mm-hmm. And what we also, in the beginning, for example, if we take all the bases, all the surface treatment of them was actually, we was actually trying to work with some new kind of chrome. But we found out very quickly that it doesn't make sense. We can't go that way because it's a dead end, and we'll actually more or less lose the whole sustainability issue. So we've been actually searching a lot to find alternatives to that. And what we have found is actually some really, really nice powder coats. So I think if you take a look around afterwards, I think you should actually pay attention, because I think actually it doesn't look, it's not like it's trying to be an alternative chrome. It is powder coat, but it just is in a very nice and delicate way. And I also think that actually that also lifts the whole product, because it's just really nice. And that's actually what regarding the whole process has actually been about also choosing the best possible materials. We haven't made any shortcuts. We haven't taken easy decisions. That's also why it took us 3 years to come to the presentation of it, because we really want to not to launch it before we were 100% sure that we got it as good as what's possible right now.
And you don't feel like you have to compromise on the design when going for a sustainable approach or using the sustainable materials?
Actually, I think for me, the design process is actually not about making compromises. I think if you think you as a person know everything and just want to do it the way you think is right, I think you're gonna make products that are not as good as actually what they could be. I think for me it's very important that actually I listen to all the subcontractors, to all engineers, the product development team, and get all their knowledge and know-how, and actually take whatever is useful to put it into the project, because that will actually, what I think is make it actually lift to a higher level, and actually will lift to a level that actually I could not have done by myself. So by integrating different people, they also get some ownership of it. And I think everyone knows that if you feel you are part of that project, you're also gonna work a little bit harder to make sure it turns into a success, and actually walk that extra mile to make sure we take the right decisions. So I think it's really important that we see this as a teamwork.
I feel like there's a lot of questions out there about sustainability. There's a lot of certificates out there, and not a lot of people know what they all mean. And how, as a designer, could you become better at guiding people and really like making clear what it is to be focused on sustainability as a designer?
I think actually for me as a designer, I think my most important job is actually to create good, functional, beautiful, long-lasting things. That is sustainable. Because the problem is, if you make a sustainable product that actually is bad designed, people won't buy it. I think everyone wants to buy the whole package. I think it would be very difficult to make, even though it's more or less the best, most sustainable product in the world, if it doesn't look nice or doesn't fit anywhere or the functionality doesn't work, there's no market for it. So I think what we need to do is make sure that we do our best possible job to design as good as possible. Of course, also make it long-lasting. That's also a very important thing, because we can talk about aesthetic sustainability. Some of the worst things ever made is actually things that are built on trend, because trend is very short-term, meaning that in a few years it will be outdated and people will actually throw the things out. So we need, as a designer, also to focus on making something that is, of course, both comfortable, functional, but also long-lasting design-wise. So make it simple, beautiful, and then, of course, also make it construction-wise simple. I think it's also, if we make a sustainable product, it's also very important that everything can actually be taken apart. So if something happened to the base, you don't need to throw the whole chair out. You can actually replace the base, and you can use the chair once again. So it's very important that this is done in a way so you don't need to have a PhD degree in actually disassembling furniture. But for this chair, actually, we have 4 screws. You can unloose them, and you can completely shift everything. And another thing, actually, also we've been focusing a lot on is actually the way we do the upholstery. Because it's made now in a way where we actually can do it without glue. And actually that also a little bit actually didn't mention at the beginning, but actually the whole design process around this has been a little bit a classical approach. The inspiration actually comes from some old bistro and cafe chairs. And some of them is actually extremely high quality and also very, very comfortable. And the reason for that is actually they have a very surrounding back part. So the back part actually really gives you support. And another thing that's actually very characteristic about these type of chairs is actually they're divided in two surfaces. So we have the seat surface and you have the back surface. And actually that construction actually gives us the possibility to upholster it without glue. And of course, glue for the environment is never good. If you can remove the glue, it's always good. But another thing also, it's actually much more long-lasting because there's no friction between the fabric and the foam. So when sitting in it, it doesn't destroy the foam over time. So what happens if you want to either reupholster it or something happens to the fabric in a few years, you can actually completely just take the clamps out underneath, take out the upholstery and just rechange it. You don't need to change the foam. So that's actually also a part of the process that you spend an enormous amount of time on solving.
A big focus on long-lasting design and forever evolving.
Yeah.
And you just mentioned when you introduced yourself, you have the studio since 2003. What would you say is the biggest change that you have seen since then in sustainability in the design world?
Regarding sustainability, I think the last 3 years the focus has been enormous. 3 years ago, when I took around in more or less our local fair here in 3D Design, or you went to Stockholm, there was maybe 5-10 different products that actually focused on the environment. I think last year it was probably 80%. So the good thing is it's not something that only a few companies actually are interested in, but actually it's a whole industry. Mm-hmm. And I think also what happens if you don't start to develop sustainable furniture, you'll be completely outdated within a few years. Yeah. So it will be, from now on, it will just be probably in a few years you won't even ask if it's sustainable. You just expect that it is. So
yeah, every product
actually
that
every
you
product.
encounter with. Yeah. So if you would have to make a prediction for where we would be in 10 to 20 years.
If I knew, I would probably do something else than what I'm doing today. I think, hopefully, I really hope and also actually believe in it that we are, all the effort that I put into this sustainability issues right now, we must be able to see these things in 10 years. We must be able to see that things have started changing regarding regarding the climate, regarding the environment. Because, of course, we're still in the starting phase of this, so it's going to escalate big time from now on. So I think in 10 years. Yeah. Of course, I'm optimistic, but I'm also realistic. I think actually we will be able to solve these things. But I also think we need to actually face that this is not a thing that is over in 10 years. It's not like we have to struggle with this for 10 years, then we solved everything, and we can go back to the lives we had before. This is like something that's going to completely change the whole way we live from now on, and more or less, hopefully forever, actually, into a better place. So.
Yeah, I think you can feel that there's a big demand now in the market. It's becoming more and more that there's a ask about, what the sustainability policy is, or as a company as a whole as well. Yeah. So I think that's not just the product, but also the way how you are running the company or the brand, for example. Yeah,
because you also need to be aware of that. Of course, it's not only about being sustainable. You also need to, of course, treat every person that's involved in this project as good as possible. And still, there's also a thing called profit. If it's not profitable to actually to do this sustainability, there won't be that much interested in doing it. So we need to show. And I think actually, especially here in Scandinavia, we have a huge opportunity now to actually show that it's possible to make both great design that are sustainable, and you can actually still make profit out of it. And then, of course, we also, for the last 10 years, there's been a huge focus on Nordic design and Scandinavian design in particular. And I think we've been copied more or less in countless numbers around the world. And what we can actually hope for now is if they start to copy us, that maybe also they copy the sustainability issue. So that means, of course, we lose a little bit of profit, but the globe will actually earn from that.
Yeah, so that would be great.
That would be amazing.
And then in the meantime, we keep evolving and focusing on our Relight chair and growing it and making it as the best version of a sustainable chair as possible.
I'll do my best, that's for sure.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you for your time. And I don't know, I'm out of questions, but if any of you have a question, I would say raise your hand. We have a mic that come by. This is your chance to ask he, whatever. Or maybe not whatever, but...
Or you come afterwards. I'll be here, so...
Yeah. No? Nobody? Ah, yes. Yes, we have one.
I can't actually answer that question. I think, yeah.
It depends on the variations, but where's Jesper when you need him? So yeah, it depends on the variations of which base. If you have it upholstered, unupholstered. Yeah. So, but we will get you somebody over.
But actually, to link that, I think actually it's also been important for us all the way through the process to this should not be at a higher price. Actually, we try to show that it's possible to make a sustainable chair that with a price that is average. So, because otherwise, I think we're still going to have a little bit of conflict that people would maybe choose something else if they have to choose between two chairs where the price is 20% higher. So, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a big focus. Thank you. Any?
I think it's actually placed more or less all around you. No.
Yeah, they're all sitting. Yeah.
I think they're placed right over here.
Yeah, they're all sitting on here, and we have it downstairs as well. Yeah, when you walk in. And right there.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Probably I don't have eyes in my back. It's right next to me. Sorry.
Yeah. Would you maybe we take it? Put it.
I should lift. You can see. It's not that. Yeah. But this is how it looks. And then of course, as mentioned before, we have it in lots of different, of course, colors, but also different. Actually, 4 different ways of doing the upholstery. So, yeah.
You should definitely try to sit in it. It's super comfortable. So it's good.
We hope actually, we spend a lot of
I spend a lot of time in it,
and then trying to find a good comfort, long-lasting comfort, actually.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
First of all, congratulations. I'm from Belgium, and I was wondering.
Belgium.
As a Belgian guy, I admire Nordic design, Scandinavian design. But sometimes I wonder myself, what is Belgian design? So I would like to know your perspective on what is Belgian design for you as your English.
Yes, I would like to know that too.
Yeah, I didn't prepare for that. I think actually, of course, the good thing about Scandinavian design is it's very simple, but also get a little bit boring. I think you're much better to play around, to investigate a little bit more in the materials, to try to maybe go more to the limits. I think you also linked to Dutch design. I think you have a little bit more playful approach to it, but still great design. I think also what happens the last couple of years, actually, also a lot of things actually turn in. Maybe we call it Nordic design, but it also turned more to international design. So I think I can still see actually also Italian design. Actually, a lot of the Italian brands actually also start to make it into not a Nordic or Italian or Belgium, but more international language. I think so. Yeah, I think also the world is just smaller today. It's no problem to go around. You can also now, of course, with this due to this crisis here, we've actually found out that it's so convenient just to take these video meetings. So we can have meetings more or less every day with companies in Italy, in Spain, in Belgium, wherever. So the world is just a small place today. So I think we're influenced by that. So it will be like a global trend instead of like a local trend.
Thank you. Anyone else? We have time for one last question, or no? Okay, great. Thank you so much for your time and for coming here and for listening, mostly to hear.
Thank you. Thank you.